Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are unpacking one of the most epic, character-driven narratives ever recorded. We're looking at the remarkable life of Prophet Yusuf, or Joseph. It's this profound, sweeping journey that takes us from the absolute depths of a dark well all the way to the pinnacle of Egyptian royalty. But honestly, more than just a historical account, this is a total masterclass in human psychology, resilience, and just unwavering faith. Let's get right into it. Right off the bat, there's this incredible meta fact we've got to highlight. Unlike the stories of other prophets in the Quran, which are usually woven across various chapters and kind of require you to piece them together, the story of Prophet Yusuf is completely unique. It's the only prophet story told in complete, uninterrupted, chronological order within a single chapter, Surah Yusuf. And that really sets the stage perfectly for this gripping saga of intense betrayal, incredible trials, and ultimate triumph. All right, Section 1. The dream and betrayal. Every great saga has an inciting incident, right? Well, for Yusuf, it all starts in his childhood with a powerful, life-altering vision. Picture this. Yusuf is just a young boy, and he wakes up one morning absolutely buzzing about a dream he just had. He runs to his father, Prophet Yaqub, and describes seeing exactly 11 stars, along with the sun and the moon, all prostrating to him. Yaqub was overjoyed. He immediately understood that Allah had chosen his son for prophethood. But he also understood human nature. He strongly warned Yusuf not to share this dream with his 11 older half-brothers, because he knew that their intense jealousy could lead to something terrible. But man, notice the dramatic contrast in how the next events unfold. That jealousy Yaqub was so worried about, it totally festered. The older brothers lured Yusuf out to play, completely overpowered him, and threw him down a deep well. And to cover their tracks, they brought back his shirt, smeared it with sheep's blood, and claimed a wolf had eaten him. But look at Yaqub's response here. He immediately noticed a glaring, massive flaw in their lie. The shirt wasn't even torn. He actually pointed out that it must have been a very merciful wolf to eat the boy without ripping his clothes. Despite this devastating, heart-wrenching betrayal, Yaqub chose beautiful patience, trusting entirely in Allah's plan. Meanwhile, Yusuf's physical journey literally hits rock bottom before taking a wild turn. He manages to cling to a stone ledge inside that well until a passing caravan hauls up their water bucket and finds him. They immediately shackle him and drag him from Canaan straight to the Egyptian slave market. Word quickly spread about this remarkably athletic and handsome boy, which sparked a huge auction among the elite. Ultimately, he was sold to the absolute highest bidder, Al-Aziz, the chief minister of Egypt, who brought him right into his palace. And that brings us to a major turning point. Section 2. The Palace Trial. Yusuf is obviously no longer that helpless boy in the well. He's growing up in the palace, and he's confronted with entirely new and honestly, much more complex challenges. As he matured, Allah blessed Yusuf with exceptional knowledge and judgment. But he was also blessed with something else. According to a really famous narration from the Prophet Muhammad's night journey, Yusuf was bestowed with literally half of world beauty. His angelic looks were absolutely unparalleled, and it was this extraordinary physical beauty that captivated the heart of his master's wife, Zuleika, leading to a dangerous and completely overwhelming obsession. Let's actually break down how this temptation played out, because it's wild. One day, Zuleika locks the doors and outright demands Yusuf fulfill her desires. Yusuf immediately seeks refuge in Allah, declares that wrongdoers never succeed, and he just sprints for the door. In her absolute desperation, Zuleika chases him and grabs his shirt, tearing it from the back. And right at that exact moment, her husband walks in. Zuleika instantly tries to play the victim, but a relative there wisely points out the physical evidence. Think about it. Because the shirt was torn from behind, she had to be the one chasing him. Yusuf's innocence was essentially forensically proven. And this just brilliantly illustrates Yusuf's incredible moral fortitude. Because Zuleika, she didn't stop there. To prove to the gossiping women of the city just how helpless she was against his beauty, she invited them to a banquet, handed them all knives and fruit, and then brought Yusuf in. The women were so stunned by his looks, they unknowingly cut their own hands. When Zuleika doubled down and threatened him with prison if he didn't yield, Yusuf made his choice. He said, "My lord, prison is more to my liking than that to which they invite me." He chose unjust imprisonment over succumbing to sin. And so he was locked away. Which plunges us into Section 3, Prison and the King, the Dark Years. But Yusuf's character remains absolutely unshaken here. He uses this time to maintain his piety, calling his cellmates to Allah, and he starts interpreting dreams. specifically for two new prisoners, the king's cupbearer and the baker. He accurately predicted the baker's execution and the cupbearer's release. Now, he did ask the cupbearer to mention him to the king, but the man totally forgot, leaving Yusuf in that prison for several more years. But then, the king himself has this terrifying, cryptic dream. Suddenly, the cupbearer remembers Yusuf. So Yusuf provides this incredibly precise, life-saving interpretation. He says Egypt will see 7 years of abundant harvests where they absolutely must save the grain in its spikes. That would be followed by 7 devastating years of famine, and finally, a year of abundant rain. Now, this next part is absolutely crucial. The king was so impressed by this that he ordered Yusuf's immediate release. But Yusuf refused. Can you imagine? He would not step a single foot out of that prison until his name was officially cleared. He demanded a fair inquiry regarding those women at the banquet. Trapped by Yusuf's unwavering demand for justice, Zuleika finally confessed before the king. Yusuf's honor was flawlessly restored, and his composure throughout all of this actually secured him a massive, high-ranking position. All right, Section 4, Famine and the Brothers. Yusuf is now appointed to the massive responsibility of controlling the granaries to save the entire region from starvation. When that predicted 7-year famine finally strikes, its devastation reaches all the way back to Canaan, which sets the stage for a breathtaking moment of dramatic irony. Yaqub sends his sons, Yusuf's older brothers, down to Egypt to buy food. Yusuf instantly recognizes them, but them? They have absolutely zero idea they are standing before the little brother they threw into a well all those years ago. So Yusuf initiates this highly calculated psychological test. He casually asks about their family and discovers his full brother, Binyamin, is back home. Yusuf demands they bring Binyamin next time, promising double rations as an incentive, but he secretly orders his servants to slip the brothers' money back into their bags so they'd be absolutely compelled to return. Watch how the tension just skyrockets here. The brothers manage to convince a terrified Yaqub to let Binyamin go. Once they're in Egypt, Yusuf secretly reveals his identity to Binyamin. But then, as they're all leaving, the guards stop them. The king's golden bowl is missing. The brothers are so confident in their innocence, they state that whoever is found with the cup should just become a slave to the owner. It was a fair law to them. But then, the cup is pulled directly from Binyamin's bag. The brothers are absolutely stunned. And to honor their pledge to their father, the eldest brother refuses to leave Egypt. The emotional weight of this news completely shatters Yaqub. Think about it. He has now lost Yusuf, the eldest brother, and Binyamin. His grief becomes so profound and his crying so intense that his eyes turn white and he goes entirely blind. Yet, his response is just a masterclass in faith. He tells his sons he only complains of his grief to Allah, because deep down, he never let go of Yusuf's original childhood dream. He knew from Allah that the vision would somehow, some way, still hold true. And here is where the pacing shifts right into our emotional climax, Section 5, Reunion and Forgiveness. Yaqub commands his sons to return to Egypt one last time, tells them not to despair, and to search for Yusuf and Binyamin. So the desperate brothers are back in Egypt, standing before this powerful minister, pleading their tragic case. And suddenly, Yusuf speaks to them in their native language. He asks, "Do you know what you did with Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant?" The terrifying realization hits them like a freight train. They start to tremble, probably expecting immediate execution. But Yusuf, holding absolute power over the very men who tried to kill him, he delivers one of the most astonishing examples of forgiveness in human history. "No blame will there be upon you today." Now, did you notice this hidden motif tracking through our entire explainer? The shirt. First, there was the blood-smeared shirt that falsely signaled his death to his father. Then, the shirt torn from behind that proved his false guilt in the palace. And finally, Yusuf gives his brothers his current shirt, telling them to cast it over their blind father's face. When they do, Allah miraculously restores Yaqub's eyesight. The very symbol of his deepest grief becomes the literal vehicle of his greatest relief. It's just incredible. The whole family travels to Egypt. Yusuf warmly welcomes them and raises his elderly parents up onto the throne. And it's in this magnificent, culminating moment that all the threads tie together. He turns to his father and references that morning from decades ago. 11 stars, the sun, and the moon. The prophetic dream is finally beautifully fulfilled by Allah's subtle and perfect decree. As we wrap up this explainer, let's just step back and look at the core takeaways from Yusuf's life. He knew he was destined for greatness, yet he faced agonizing adversity at every single turn. He could have been bitter. He could have complained. Instead, he was betrayed by his own blood, yet he kept his faith. He was intensely tempted, yet he maintained strict morality. He was unjustly imprisoned, yet he remained deeply patient. And when he finally gained absolute power over his abusers, he chose total forgiveness. He treated everyone with dignity and trusted Allah to take care of the rest. Because this story teaches us such a timeless, profound truth. The difficult circumstances of our lives do not make us who we are. They simply reveal who we are to ourselves. So I want to leave you with this question to reflect on. When you are inevitably faced with your own deep wells and dark prisons in life, what will your circumstances reveal about you? Thank you so much for exploring this incredible narrative with me today. Keep learning, keep seeking understanding, and we'll see you in the next explainer.